r/AskReddit NSFW. Sex workers of Reddit. What's the weirdest kink a customer has asked you to fulfill? I was paid $200 to kick/knee a customer in the balls till he came. Only took about 4 times to make him come. Did it a few times. He even paid me $500 when I went out clubbing to do it in a corner of the club. What the fuck? You actually witnessed him definitely positively ejaculate from blunt forceful trauma? He definitely wasn't pissing himself. Definitely not piss. I can tell the difference. I figured you could tell. I think I was just in mild disbelief that someone could actually reach orgasm that way. I mean, I actually got very mildly tapped in the balls once while I had a profound erection. It insta melted like an ice sculpture of a dick in a blast furnace. Not super crazy, but I had a guy approach me through Reddit and ask just to be able to give me money with no strings attached. There was a couple month period during which he would gradually send me money in multiple $15 payments spread throughout the day. Sometimes we'd text too. Sometimes we wouldn't message for a week, but he'd still send me money and quietly wait until I felt like talking. He liked when I ignored him, and if we talked it turned him on when I was mean. He ended up giving me about $1,500 without him ever asking for so much as a photo. Man, if anyone wants to do that with me, I'm willing af. Updating resume to now include my very special skills. I'm mean and I ignore people. I was a cab driver for several years. Night shift. Ghetto. Loved that job. I had a regular escort who always requested me. Probably because I didn't ask her for anything whilst driving her to her next job. She'd go up into an apartment, house, or hotel room and have me wait. Sometimes a full hour, but rarely over 15 minutes. I never argued because waiting and a return trip keeps the meter running longer. One time she came down after maybe 10 minutes. She looked half amused and half terrified. She said that the guy had her put on a muumuu and an old lady wig. Then yelled at him while he took a shit and, edit for clarification, during, he jacked off. King weird. Freud would have something to say about that guy. No doubt. Freud would have loved the internet. Freud born in this era would be like the Alex Jones of psychology. That would be a blast to watch. All women have penis envy. They're full of anxiety because they have no dicks. People, wake up. I think I might qualify as a one-time sex worker. One night, after riding the subway home from work, a guy followed me off the train and offered to buy the shoes off my feet. He stammered through some nonsense about being a sneaker collector and paid me $450 in cash for my old, sweaty canvas Vans. Totally worth the 2-block walk home in my socks. Just going to point out that some vintage Vans can go for $1,000 or more to collectors. But yeah, he just probably wanted to nut in them. Not one myself, but I knew a reporter who had done a story on the infamous red light area of Mumbai. One of the stories that stuck with all of us is of this one guy who turned up at one specific date every month with a duffel bag. Now you'd think he'd bring kinky devices with him to use on the sex worker, but instead, he'd bring a full set of traditional Indian wedding attire. The sex worker told the reporter that this specific customer would pay her whatever she asked, as long as she'd wear the wedding clothes. He would respectfully wait outside the room till she changed, and then he would make her sit on the bed. He would pull up a chair, sit in front of her, and just look at her and weep for 2 hours straight. Then he'd leave, without laying as much as a finger on her. Turns out, he had lost his wife to some freak accident hours after they got married, and it messed with him big time. One of the saddest stories I've heard, and it makes my heart ache immensely whenever I recount it. Had a roommate in college, 2000s, who did private adult videos by request only, basically expensive personalized video porn. She came home pretty bummed one day and I asked what was up. She said she had been paid $500 to put on an adult diaper and comically large baby bonnet and walk otherwise naked around a local college green space. The whole video was her walking around with her fingers in her mouth acting like a confused adult baby. At the end she was told to pee in the diaper and show the camera. When she thought she was done, the director asked if she wanted to poo in the diaper for $1,500 instead of $500, saying the client asked if it was possible. She declined immediately, and the director was, I guess, okay with it. She was bummed she missed out on making an extra $1,000 because she had pooped before going to work. We both laughed so f***ing hard. What a ridiculous thought. Darn. If only I hadn't pooped before work, I'd be making some real money. That's why I always poop at work. So I'm earning money whilst taking a dump. I once attempted to get into selling feet pics years ago. This one guy messaged me and said he'd give me $200 if I was able to track down his identity in 30 minutes based off of a few clues he'd given me. He told me his state and job and some surrounding area clues. Wasn't able to find him. Guess I'm not the next Sherlock Holmes. He was very heavily implying to me that he wanted to be humiliated to people he knew in real life and wanted me to have this power over him, that I knew his real identity and could out him on his fetishes. Edit. I was unable to enter the feet pic selling community because, while my feet are very small and neat, perhaps cute to some people, apparently the angle of them isn't pleasing to the eye and everyone wants very long angled toes, which I do not have. Edit again. I seriously got gold for regaling my failed attempt to enter the foot porn community by being a bad hackman / stalker, and I feel like I'm in a psychedelic dystopia. Not into feet talking, but now I have another body part to be self-conscious about foot angle. A client pays me to teach him how to blow his nose properly, making sure to say key phrases like blow it clear. Another one set up a fantasy scenario where I receive an expensive vibrator in the mail, but when I open it, discover a tiny man that's stuck in it. He said what you don't know is that man was a factory worker that got stuck in the vibrator making it. I was obviously confused where he wanted me to go with this, but suggested I should try using the vibrator with the man attached. Nope. The client replied, I can't come unless you destroy it. This might be the weirdest one for me. He didn't like unions. I love the lack of kink shaming here. Also, not a sex worker, but ex-military. Some guys aren't too shy about sharing even the most personal shit. One of my buddies had a kink with those horse girls that actually pretend to be horses. I mean, they gallop around on all four and jump over the obstacles. The whole 9 yards. He grew up on a ranch too. Said what's wrong with combining the best of both worlds? That sentence raises more questions than 11 need answered. I can hear the silence in that room. I can't. That's how I found out about nugget porn. The Marine Corps might have f***ed up my head, but my brothers gave me a lot to remember. Nothing particularly exciting, to be honest. Kind of disappointing. Slightly more interesting requests included: 1. Pretending to be married and having to be quiet so we didn't wake the kids. 2. Armpit licking, surprisingly common. 3. Pretending to be a cat and meowing, crawling around and drinking out of a bowl on the floor. 4. Wearing pantyhose and being stretched and put into various yoga type poses while he sniffed me. Met more interesting folk in my day job, I think. I feel obliged to mention the human toilet though. I never met him, but some of the other girls said there was a guy who would pay girls to poo in his mouth. Apparently they would line up outside his room to do it. Not judging, but I don't think that I could ever do that. A customer had a fishing fetish, got fisher outfits for some girls like a raincoat or some shit, and brought a fishing rod. boots and all, and the girls had to act like they were fishing him while he was laying on the floor and moved like a fish. Craziest shit I heard, but whatever floats their boat I guess. Sounds like you met a sketch comedy artist. Not me, but I heard this story from a friend of a friend who worked in a BDSM club. She had this client that would come in with a few bean bags full of nettles. It's a stinging plant for anyone not familiar. Wikipedia says they are not native to a lot of places. Anyway, then they put a tarpaulin down on the ground so they could roll him up in it with the nettles like a joint. Then she just kicked out of him, and apparently that's what got him off. I'm dude who did weird stuff during college to earn some extra cash. My job was to go to these afternoon parties organized by these filthy rich housewife and do catering service in our undies. Undies were provided by the secret friendship company. If they would like us, they would put in a currency note of 50 hundredths in our undies and take a drank peek of the good stuff. Once a woman asked me to assist her for personal work to earn more cash. I told her that I will not have sex for money. She told me that I will not be required to have sex. I got on board. She took me to a room, paid me $5k just to watch her slowly undress and cry. I initially got scared as I thought she is framing me for rape, but she calmed me down and only asked me to watch. She slowly undressed herself while crying really loudly, and then she lied on the floor naked, bawling like a baby. There were actual tears and stuff. It was really sad for me, but $5k meant a lot during college days. Finally, she silently stood up, covered herself, went for shower while asking me to leave immediately. She took my number and we made it a monthly routine. I was terrified every time she called me for the work, but I still did 7 to 8 sessions for the cash before I accepted that it's too weird for me. I couldn't sleep nicely for 2 to 3 nights after each experience. Not too fancy like other stuff here, but weird AF still. TLDR, rich lady paid me to watch her undress while crying. Shit, for 5 grand. I would have made that my day job in college. I'd be at home Gerald's house every night. After reading through this thread, I'm nowhere near the perverted bastard I thought I was. My fetish is to have sex with a woman. We found the real sadistic right here. One of my favorite customers at my restaurant is a Southwestern, and she always tells me stories in exchange for a free booba. She's also the best tipper. The best story she's told me is a guy paying her $200 to just stand on his belly. Nothing else, just stand there fully clothed. Dude didn't even jerk off or anything. And he made an appointment every time she was in town, lol. A friend, male, got asked this question in Cologne, Germany, in public mind you. Roughly in these words: I like your Nike Air Maximum. I work out a lot. Look at my abs. Pulls up shirt, I'll lie down on the floor and I'll pay you 20 euros to stand on my abs with those nice Air Maximum. That was one of the weirdest and funniest public interactions we ever had as a friend group. He had no f***ing clue how to react to that. But he denied, of course. It was like 5 years ago, and we still laugh about it. Yeah. But 20 euros is 20 euros. I think the strangest I've ever gotten was a man who had a huge fetish for Disney characters. And I'm not even talking just Disney princesses, he loved shit like Lilo and Stitch or Pooh Bear. He regularly paid me several hundred to dress up as his favorite characters and basically verbally abuse him. It was a sweet gig while it lasted. However strange, nothing really surprises me anymore after that one. Edit, this blew up way more than I expected. I'll try and get to everyone's questions and messages eventually. Thank you all for being so kind and open-minded. Honestly, the idea of somebody shit-talking me while cosplaying a Disney character sounds so absurdly hilarious that I think it could actually be a fun time. Just not a legitimately sexy time. I was camming and a guy wanted to start a paper-minute camming show. I agreed and just casually talked with him for a bit. Then to the weird part. He wanted me to lie in full view of the camera. Completely still. Like literally not move. I spent about an hour just laying completely still and making no sound. I have no idea what he got out of it. Maybe it was a power thing. Like he did it just cause he could. This is the most likely reason. People can get a feeling of power from any number of out of the norm situations. This must be the real reason that Reddit has upvote/downvote buttons. You've reached the end. You're a star. Destroy the subscribe button for more like that.